Good morning. Hayom Yom, Chof Zayin Tammuz. So once upon a time, a brilliant Misnagdisha scholar came to Liajne to finally study Chassidus. And he was brilliant, and he threw himself all into it. And within a very short amount of time, he had amassed a huge knowledge of Chassidus, and he had a very deep and broad and thorough understanding of Chassidus. And he was able to sit for hours on end and just think Chassidus and get lost in thought on Chassidus. And the source that this is taken from, it shares how once he wasn't feeling so well and he wanted to go to sleep early, so he went to say Shema. And in the middle of the Shema, he got lost thinking about Chassidus, and he ended up standing there all the way till the morning. And this guy, after being there for a very short amount of time, so he went into Yechidus with the Alter Rebbe. And when he came into Yechidus, he asked the Alter Rebbe, what am I lacking? I want to grow, I want to become a better person, I want to become a more accomplished person. What can I do? What should I work on and focus on? And the Alter Rebbe told him something amazing. He said, you're not lacking anything, you're perfect. He said, in your manifestation, in your actions, you're perfect. You are a Yerushalayim, you're a God-fearing Jew, and you are an incredible scholar, unbelievable. He said, though your problem, and where there's really room for growth, is more internally. He says, you have too much chametz in your life. You need more bittul, you need more matzah. Which chametz is dough which has risen, which has become bloated, which represents arrogance. And matzah, which has never risen, represents humility, a humble person. So he says, you have a touch of arrogance too, you have too much arrogance. And therefore, it's not about doing more, because then you'll feel more arrogant. It's about, what you're doing is fine. It's about internally not feeling so arrogant about yourself and about your accomplishments, not being driven by arrogance, basically. And he said, he said, every person, a human being, a person, a body is like a keli, it's like a vessel. And just like a keli, a vessel, a plate, a bowl, whatever it may be, can become non-kosher, it can become treif, if you put it in an oven, if you heat it up in a fire, and instead of putting it there with kosher food, you put it there with non-kosher food. If you put non-kosher food in a fire, that becomes absorbed into the vessel, into the keli, and it becomes non-kosher. So he said, in the same way, if a person allows a certain fire in their life, if a person allows himself, is driven by, and their passion, they put a fire in their life which is a non-kosher fire. So he says, you might think it's a good fire, you might think it was beautiful and it was a good fire because it was getting you to do good things, it was getting you to do Torah mitzvahs. But really, it was a fire of arrogance. You were being driven by arrogance. You were being driven by chametz. And that arrogance, that chametz, that impurity, that unholiness, that unhealthiness has become absorbed into your being, into your mind, into your heart, into your very being. And we need to get rid of that. We need to expunge that. We need to make you a good, batal-tika person, basically, a humble person. And he said, with the physical vessel again, so if it absorbs non-kosher, the way to get rid of that, the way to fix that, is to heat it up again in a fire, and to such a point of heat that something called libun, that actual sparks start to fly out of the vessel. That's because it's so hot. So he said the equivalent of that is to work on yourself, to be driven by such holiness, by such godliness, by such humility, and you develop such a drive, such a powerful drive in your life, a goodly drive, a godly drive, a godly fire. You're driven by a godly fire to the point that godly fire, so to speak, starts producing sparks in your life. And when that happens, when you're driven by such a godly fire in your heart, when you're driven by a humble spirit in your heart, to that extent, that's how you will become a humble person. That's when you'll know that you have fixed yourself and expunged all the chametz in your life, all the unhealthiness, all the arrogance in your life. And that's essentially what he told him. Now, the Rebbe once talked about the story, and the Rebbe was talking about how till Chassidus came along, so everyone thought that Teshuva meant that bad people need to become better, need to become good people. He said Chassidus innovated something crazy. Chassidus said everyone is meant to do tshuva. Tshuva is for everyone. Even a tzaddik, even someone who's perfect, has to do tshuva because God is endless. And since God is infinite and God is endless, a person never stops growing. A person could always grow much more. Wherever you're holding in life, there's so much more to grow as a human being. Because, you can connect with Hashem and God in a much more powerful way. And if you think this is good, this is a joke compared to where you could be tomorrow or the next day or in a year from now, and it's endless the amount the person could grow. Even a tzaddik could do tshuva, basically. And he said, this is demonstrated in this story with the Alter Rebbe, that even though the Alter Rebbe told this chassid, that you are perfect, immediately after saying those words, you're perfect, he told him, there's so much more for you to grow. You think you're in a good place, but this is you're actually in a terrible place in comparison to where you could be potentially. And from here we see the concept that even a tzaddik has to do tshuva. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.